My pleasure to welcome someone many of you probably already know. He has come to tell a story that many of us don't know, that he could have qualified as a client of an organization like Families First, as a child growing up with his mother and two sisters in the projects, learning about the consequences of poverty and the power of resiliency. At an early age, he developed a passion for helping other families who wanted a better life. After a number of years in state government, where he honed his skills for helping others, he started working in the front lines in nonprofits. The fire of his childhood dream of helping others is still burning brightly as president of Quantum Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Eric Kelly.
Thank you all. I'm going to shuffle some things around up here. I tried to be really smart and inconspicuous by leaving my folder here, but now it's obvious that I left it here, right? Now you all know. Let me begin by thanking the Planning Committee and the Board of Directors of Families First, and of course to my friend Julie Swindler, CEO of Families First. Thank you all for the invitation to be here for this great celebration. It is a family affair, and if you don't mind, I'd also like to introduce my family who has joined me here today. I want to introduce my wife. My wife, Kira, is sitting up front here, and we have with us, Now listen, I'm going to help you out. We have 4 children, so just hold the applause. You don't want to, trust me. And our 4 children are here. Our daughter Madison, our sons Mason, Miles, and Malachi are with us as well. And very special, my sister came in, and my oldest sister is here, and my niece, who is in chiropractic school to become a doctor of chiropractic medicine, surprised me and came in. But I also want to introduce a woman who is very important to me. My mom came up to be with me for today, and so, Mother, thank you for being here. So I just want to introduce my family, and also I call her my second mom. She's my mother-in-law, but mother-in-law never really felt right. So we call her Mima because that's what the kids now call her. My wife's mom is also here, Sandra Bridges. So thank you all for being here with me. You know, when I was asked to speak, I was thrilled to receive the invitation. And when I thought about what and who we are celebrating, I was even more humbled by the invitation to come and give remarks today. We are celebrating the success of thousands of families who today are intact and thriving simply because of the efforts of Families First. We are recognizing in these families a sense of resiliency, determination, and resolve. So if you would, with me, can we give it up for the families who are served by Families First? Now make no mistake, there have been no easy fixes for these families in our communities. Many of them have faced very daunting barriers, catastrophic events in their lives, trauma, tragedy of kinds that you and I could not imagine. We couldn't imagine surviving some of the things that our families survived, let alone having the strength that they have to overcome. And yet so many of these families, if you were to meet them today, you would see that they have a better life. And in part due to the great work of Families First, this amazing organization. I like to say this about Families First. This is one organization that really serves the community well, and their whole goal is to help families to discover new possibilities when it seems that all hope was lost. So we're here to celebrate, and we love celebrations. I don't know one person in this room who does not love a good celebration. And it's easy for us to celebrate family, birthdays, friends, neighbors. Did I say birthdays? Wait, let me just, it was not so easy when our children were all under 8 because there were birthday parties nodding. Parents, you know this. Every weekend after weekend after weekend, but I digress, I'm better now. There was a birthday party somewhere. But we enjoyed it. We enjoy seeing our families, friends, we enjoy seeing their children at these festive occasions, but one thing that we collectively don't get to see very often, we don't see the children who live in the shadows of our societies. You've heard them described already today. These are the children, these are the families who suffer with domestic violence, and those who are in homelessness, and those with mental and physical disabilities, those who are dealing with the effects of substance abuse or physical abuse, living in poverty, or any combination of these social ills. And sometimes their accomplishments go unnoticed. So often their steps forward go unmentioned. But not today. Today we recognize and we celebrate the victory of our families and all that they have realized over the years. So thank you, Families First, for 25 years of excellent service to these families. Now, oh yeah. Thank you. Now, having grown up in the housing projects, and it's so funny, when I begin to speak about growing up in the housing projects and growing up as a child, let me fair warning, I will sometimes slip, and I will enter into we used to call it ebonics, I don't know what we call it now. So if my very professional executive sounding voice that you hear right now, take a slide to the left, you'll know that it's just because I'm feeling the moment of the projects. You know, having grown up in housing projects, I knew, and I know firsthand what happens when a family, a single mom or a single dad, grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, or grandchildren as we used to say in the old country, raising their grandchildren. When these families are given the tools that they need to raise loving families and not lose these children to the system, when we do that, we break a very vicious and dark cycle of human despair. And we set the trajectory and we set the stage for future success. What might success look like for these families? I'm going to embarrass my sister. She didn't know I was going to do this. My oldest sister is sitting there. We grew up in housing projects. By the end of this fall, my oldest sister will be Dr. Felicia Kelly Nelson. And in her county, she is currently running for superintendent of schools. What might success look like? Sitting next to her is my niece, who surprised me and is visiting, who will soon become a doctor of chiropractic medicine. So you ask yourself the question, what might success look like when families have the tools that they need to raise loving children? When we help families find their strength, they can overcome the effects of poverty. Here's what I say about that. Don't discount the power of determination. Sheer determination. And the good news is these families that we're talking about today, they will succeed. And they will become contributing individuals in our society today. And again, thanks in part and in great part to Families First. Now, you heard us talking about Families First. You saw that great video. And Julie, was that you in that video as a kid? I love it. I love it. But who's Families First? You know, if we look at this organization over the past 25 years, this is a powerhouse organization. An organization determined to release the power of family. The staff of Families First, and I know the staff, you are all around this room here, this staff goes above and beyond the call of duty. They will reach out to what we sometimes in the nonprofit and social service sector, we call the hard to reach or difficult to serve populations. Yet this team, Families First team, seems to do it and do it with excellence. I remember when I first came into contact with Families First, now this has been some time ago, I heard about a program that Families First operates, and that the members of the staff would literally go into bars and would go and find the pregnant women that they served. That takes heart. That takes commitment. And not just to one woman, but there have been about 1,200 families every year are treated with dignity, treated with respect, and they then can discover their greatest assets in just being their own human person. So here we are, Families First. There are a couple of things I just want to mention about the impact that this organization is having in our county. 100% of the families who are in Families First Healthy Families program, listen to this, 100% of the participants, those families, have kept their children and avoided the child welfare system. Absolutely every single family in this program, 100%. And again, the child welfare system, we have some great organizations here in Palm Beach County working in the child welfare system, but there is nothing like a child being in his or her home with loving and caring parents. Another thought, another impact. All of the babies who are born to moms who are HIV positive through the TACWA program, all of the babies who have been born, 100% of these babies have been born healthy. Healthy babies born. This is what I say about the TACWA, and I know a little bit about the TACWA workers. I say these are the real soldiers, these TACWA workers. I think they have their own little mantra, and it goes something like this: oh, you're going to have a healthy baby on my watch. No. We are not going to break the statistic. You will, this baby coming out will be healthy. And they will work with that kind of passion to ensure that when that baby comes out of the womb, that baby will breathe his or her first breath of life as a healthy child. And the results go on. And I won't go through all of those, but here's the question I have. And I'm sure that if you've worked in this industry or not-for-profit social services, you sometimes have to ask, what is it that makes some people, some families, so successful when all the odds are stacked against them? And I'm a man of faith, and I have my own thoughts about what has been and continues to be the driver in my life. But there is one word that does come to mind, and that word is resilience. You've heard it said a couple of times here today. You know, if you were to take Webster's traditional dictionary definition, Webster says that resiliency, when speaking of an object or a thing, is the ability to recoil or to spring back into shape after excessive bending or being compressed. You know what I like about that definition? That whole spring back. I like that. Now, just so you know a little bit about me, I'm a Baptist preacher. And where I come from, when you say certain things like spring back, every now and then you might get an amen. And it won't hurt me if somebody said amen right now. I'd have been all right. But I like that spring back. Oh, well, you got hands up in the air. Wait, hold on. Where do you go to church? I want to come to your place. Oh, goodness gracious. Webster says there's an ability to spring back. And we hear this word resiliency. We use it when we talk about individuals who seem to be able to triumph over unbelievable odds. But despite volumes of research, no one really knows what it is. There is no silver bullet. No one really knows what it is that allows some families, some individuals to overcome when others succumb. But I've examined my own life. And as you heard in the introduction, my life began like many of the families that we serve through Families First. And as I look back over my life, there are a couple of things that stand out. And I say these things have been vitally important to my journey. And just two things: mindset and memories. Mindset and memories. Mindset. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now these are the words, the writings from King Solomon in his Proverbs in Jewish antiquity. Solomon said, for as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now mind you, we were poor growing up, although I didn't know it. Go figure. I had no idea that we were poor. My mother never told us we were poor. We never used, we never used the word poor in our house. We were just a happy little bunch. Not the Brady Bunch, but we were a happy bunch. But by all standards of the federal poverty guidelines, we were poor. And it wasn't until I went to the Florida State University. I did that for all you the Ohio State University fans out there, the Florida State University. It was when I went to the Florida State University that I had to get my mom's W-2. And I realized that my mother made just about $9,000 a year with 3 children. Single mom. Now, even then, that's poverty. I said, shut the front door. We poor. I didn't even know. You know, before my mom purchased her first home, from my elementary years through middle and part of high school, we lived in the housing projects, as you just heard. 505 North 23rd Street, apartment C-152. All right. That was your mother, I know it. I'll never forget that address. A lot happened in that apartment. A lot happened inside of me. We affectionately called our hood Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill. We lived in the housing projects, but let me say something to you. The housing projects did not live in me. It's a mindset. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. The effects of poverty were all around me, but here's what I learned. If you choose, you can choose something better. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. One of the common tragedies that you see in communities that are challenged with poverty and economic depravity, and there is some correlation, you see that oftentimes there are not fathers present. And this is not a negative diatribe of socially against men who are not present, but it's simply to say this, that even without the presence of a dad, those mamas made it very clear, you got to have a different mindset, son. My mom instilled a certain mindset. And so today I can stand here and I can say, for as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. There's something else, something rather good to be chosen. We weren't shaped by our environment. That leads me to the memories. There were certain memories that sustained me and continue to sustain me from my childhood. Memories that sustain in times of adversity. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. St. Paul, in his ancient epistle to the people of Philippi, penned these words. Think on these things, because the mind is a powerful thing. And there's just certain memories that sustained me. For a short time before we moved to the housing projects, we lived with my grandparents, all of us, Mildred and Eddie. And that's some good old country names for you right there. Growing up in Palatka, I remember the days where after the rain would come down, I remember we'd run around barefoot out in the dirt roads and the ditches along the side of the house. We'd run out and catch tadpoles and put them in a jar and watch them turn to frogs. I can remember as a child, as a little boy growing up on the dirt roads of Palatka, I don't know what you call them. I called them mosquito hawks or dragonflies, those big things that fly around. And we would try to chase them, and they were always too fast for us. But every now and then one would get trapped on the porch. And when I would get it, and no animal was harmed in these demonstrations. I'm always cognizant of who's in the audience. No animal was harmed. And I'd grab it, and I'd just put a little thread on his tail and tie it to my wrist, and he'd just buzz around while I'm walking around. Then I'd let him go. You know, look, my kids have Xbox. I have mosquito hawks. I'm just saying. You got to do with what you got. See, that was the moment I slipped. I slipped right then. I just slipped. You didn't catch it. You got to do with what you got. So these are the memories. These are the memories that sustain me. And so when I examine my own life and I look at what has become resiliency for my life, I realize that it's cut from the same cloth that these families that we serve today, it's the same cloth that they're cut from. There's a certain mindset that has to be in place, and there's certain memories, lasting memories, that can get all of us through very difficult times. So what does this mean for me today? From my childhood, I always wanted to be what I now call an agent of change. I've always worked in the not-for-profit sector, social services, juvenile justice arena. Then I moved over to the funding side. Some people call us the dark side. Working with great organizations like the United Way of Palm Beach County. I worked for the nuns who used to own St. Mary's Hospital, Allegheny Franciscan Ministries. You want some stories? I got 8 years worth of stories working with nuns, and I tell you, there are some funny stories. I ran their foundation for 8 years, and today is president of Quantum Foundation. You know, I learned a lot. I have learned a lot, both personally and professionally. And from all of my experiences growing up, the one thing that will always stick with me is the resiliency that I saw demonstrated by my mom. It's an amazing ability to spring back. And if she was having a bad day, we didn't really know. Because whatever she had to do to spring back before she interacted with us, fortunately, we didn't have any of those issues, abuse, neglect. She probably loved us too much. But resiliency, I've seen it. It's what we're teaching families today. It's what you're instilling, Julie, and your team as you share a different mindset, as you create memories for these families, memories that, believe me, 20 years from now, they will remember the days of the programs and all the activities that you have done. I challenge each of us today. I challenge us to do what Families First has done so well for 25 years. When you see people who are facing challenges, celebrate resiliency with them. When you see someone who has had a hard time, but you know that they are coming through, give them that look and say, I see you springing back. I see you springing back. Because that is resiliency. You know, I've spent quite a bit of time talking about mindset and memories. But there's one other thing that the mind allows us to do, and that is to dream. I leave you today with this thought. It is possible for these families to dream, no matter how impossible it seems for them. They do dream. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Frum Foundation, Eric Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, and thank you for joining us this afternoon and sharing. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. We can all talk about the outstanding work Families First does. However, nothing makes it clearer, more thought-provoking, or more poignant than hearing from those whose lives